Let me take you back to July of 2017. I've been in this waiting area for 4 to 5 hours maybe. The person sitting next to me was my immigration lawyer, who for the third time that day was like, hey, you're gonna call your name any second, so be prepared. But I wasn't listening. And she felt too relaxed. She was like reading a book and everything. And I'm like, well, I hope that's the Constitution you're reading, because probably gonna need that inside. But I was too busy doing the casual eavesdropping around, just listening to what people are saying, because that's what you do when there's no Wi-Fi. And there was a lot of people around me. There was this family of 4, and they were speaking Spanish. There was this lady with a baby who was been crying for the past 2 hours. And in front of me, there was this couple, and I can tell that they were from Iraq, based on their dialect, so the eavesdropping there was super good. But I kept waiting, and I kept wondering, like, what brought these people here? Like, what were their stories? What were their lives before they ended up in this office? Because I know my story, but I have no idea what their stories are. What are their hopes and dreams? What are they trying to accomplish by being here? And then, out of nowhere, I've heard my name. Someone said, Mohanad Elshieky, come inside. Which I don't know if you can see on the screen. That's not my name, but it was close enough. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to correct these people. Just going to go in. So I went in, and there was a room, and there was a desk there, and the immigration officer was sitting like right in front of me, and then she pulled my file and looked at me and smiled and said, so Mohanad, what brought you here to the United States? I was born and raised in Libya, specifically in the city of Benghazi. That usually gets a standing ovation, but whatever. My mom was a school principal. My dad was a businessman. I had 4 siblings. I was the oldest. I spent every summer by the beach with my family, or I took English courses, or I just watched TV until sunrise. And the TV was mostly sponsored by the government. So one day we'd get the Disney Channel or MTV or something, and then the next day they would play that movie, George of the Jungle and The Mummy, back to back, which is the definition of state-sponsored terrorism. Yeah, a lot of trauma there. I also was in med school. I was in med school for 4 years because my parents wanted me to be a doctor, and they told me that was my dream. So I had to do that. And I hated it because I can like barely keep a conversation alive for 3 minutes, so let alone a patient. Things in Libya were pretty mundane. It was just like it was super boring. Like, just like your casual dictatorship, you know? Like, government of like old people, president for 42 years. He just went around the country, just gave rallies. He had a lot of supporters. He would just talk and talk and talk. And it was just like long-winded speeches. And people liked it because he told it like it is. And it was crazy. And he just divided the country, attacked the media. It was very bad. So what I'm trying to say is I'm so happy to be here in 2018 where that doesn't happen. You know? Woo, dodge a bullet there. But then the revolution happened in Libya. The war started, which was a civil war happened after that, and things changed. There was a lot of bloodshed. The government went down. And I became like really politically active. I started like worked as an interpreter, and I used to work as an English teacher, and I took reporters to the front lines and stuff. And I also had a radio show that I hosted twice a week. And then I applied for a program that was sponsored by the US Department of State. And I ended up coming here to the US. The program was supposed to be for 6 weeks. They would get students from all around the Middle East and North Africa to take classes, mostly in conflict resolution, and have them develop projects and these type of things. It was going really well, but during those 6 weeks, a lot has changed. I started getting death threats because of the type of work I used to do back home. I felt like I wasn't welcomed back anymore. Stuff getting really dangerous. My friends would call me, like, "Don't come back. It's too dangerous for you here." And I had 2 options. First option was I would go back and face whatever destiny I had, or stay in a country where I basically knew no one. So I don't know if you can tell from context clues, I stayed here. And I was like, you know what, Mohanad, this is a new start. Forget about the war, forget about everything, gonna start new here, fresh start, never bring it up, it's gonna be fine. I enrolled in college, got a scholarship in Portland State University, started taking classes, everything was good until the first day. My story traveled way ahead of me. The minute I mentioned my name, it's like, oh yeah, are you that guy from Libya who got stuck here? Can't go back. Oh man, sorry about that. Tell me more. And that kept happening every day. Every day. That was the only part people were interested in. The war, the trauma. The fact that I went to med school, that what movies I watched, what music I listened to, it didn't matter anymore. I was this one thing, just a war survivor. And that's what people wanted to hear all the time, just like a movie that I had to retell, just an action movie that people enjoyed. And it sucked. Because I want to talk about other things. I want to talk about the fact that I watched 9 seasons of The Office in 1 month. Yeah, pretty impressive. Sad, but impressive. But people wouldn't let me do that. And it just followed me everywhere I went. So I started isolating myself from people. I wouldn't go and hang out with people. I wouldn't go to parties. I wouldn't go to do anything because I just didn't want to have to tell my story all over again. And I know I could have said, no, I don't want to tell it, but people had good intentions and they wanted to learn, and I had to tell the story, not to be rude. And then I just kind of disassociated myself. I just stay home, just watch The Office again, and it wasn't until I took this public speaking class in college. And after I gave 4 speeches and everything, my college professor approached me at the end of the semester and was like, hey, Mohanad, do you do stand-up comedy? I was like, I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. I love watching it. Never done it. He was like, you should try that. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he was like, no, you have to do that. I don't care what you're studying here. You should do stand-up comedy. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I did. Started doing stand-up comedy. Started hitting open mics. Before I knew it, I was doing shows. I was traveling around. It was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Because for the first time ever, I felt like I owned my own story. I would tell my story on my own terms. People would just sit there and listen. And that gave me 2 things I liked. The fact I get to talk to people about whatever I want, and also validation from stranger, which is amazing. And people say that stand-up comedy is just like therapy. And these people are wrong. Because if you need therapy, go to therapy. Don't do stand-up. People don't want to deal with that. But I know it's a cliche, but it changed my life. It completely changed it. Because I had people approach me after shows like, that was pretty surprising. I didn't see that coming. And I'm like, why? Because it was smart and funny? But it's true. Because we have this one story about immigrants. It's just this one story that we keep hearing and repeating to ourselves and just convince ourselves that these people are not like us. they don't have lives. They don't enjoy doing stuff. They just work. They're just like money machines. They're just happy to be here. Do you know what music they listen to? Do you know what shows they like? Do you know what they like to do on their free time? None of that, because they never get the chance to speak about that. I was privileged enough to have stand-up comedy as a medium where I can talk about these things. I can dictate my own story. I put my own terms here. Most of these people don't have it. They have no venue to tell their stories. Their only medium is the places they're at. Their schools, their colleges, the places they work in, the friends that they make. And people wouldn't really listen to that. People like keep asking them the same things over and over. Why did you come to this country? How bad was it there where you came from? It's never, how was your childhood like? How was your family like? What are the things that are common between you and me? It's never that. And if I can leave you with one thing today is, not just with immigrants, but with just people in general that you meet. Try and not ask, but listen. Have these people tell you their stories, don't assume their stories. Have these people put their own terms on the stuff that they want to tell you. And listen, even if their stories had no punchlines. Because mine have, because I'm super funny. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone.